just when you thought it was safe to go onto iTunes. This is Next Level Guy, the only website that makes self-development as fun as going to the movies. It's time to take the red pill and escape the Matrix.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Next Level Guy Show podcast with your host, Ian Dawson-Mackay. Next Level Guy is a men's interview, interest and improvement website where I interview the greats from all industries to help others better their lives. Listen to the experts in their respective fields being quizzed and learn something new. Listen, embrace, adapt, use it and improve. Today's guests are the guys from the Mind Pump media team. This interview is a fun one, it's informative and it's full of double entendres. The guys are the cutting edge of the fitness industry and really helping people transform themselves by cutting through all the BS and fakeness of the fitness industry and actually helping people by providing helpful advice that can work for you to help you achieve your goals. As the guys themselves describe themselves as, Mind Pump is an online radio show and podcast that has been described as Howard Stern meets fitness. It is sometimes raw, sometimes shocking, and is always deeply entertaining and informative. Your hosts, Sal Di Stefano, Adam Schafer, and Justin Andrews have over 40 years of combined fitness experience as personal trainers, club managers, IFBB fitness competitors, and fitness thought leaders. The fitness world is filled with charlatans and snake oil salesmen pushing the latest and greatest, and sometimes downright dangerous workout programs, supplements, and folk science of the unsuspecting masses. Sal, Adam and Justin use Mind Pump as a platform to shed the light of truth on health, fitness and a host of other topics. In this interview, we discuss what makes Mind Pump so unique and successful and focus on how to get and build great partnerships and friendships that can help you change the world. But first, a quick word about the affiliates. I've managed to build up some great relationships with some awesome companies. This allows me to obtain special discount codes, deals and listener exclusives. Please go to www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates for further information. If you want to optimize your health, then you'll need to try Onnit. Onnit.com is a great supplier of some amazing fitness tools and accessories, as well as some great supplements and some tasty treats. Use the term Next Level Guy, that's NEXTLEVELGUY, as one word in the discount code section of the checkout to get 10% off any eligible items in your basket. For others, I'm particularly loving The Way of the Seal book by Commander Mark Devine, Ross Edgley's awesome new book, The World's Fittest Book, and some super soft but yet super comfy jeans from Barbell Apparel. Again, use Next Level Guy at the discount code section and you'll get 10% off your entire order. For all of the free trials, special deals, discount codes and affiliate exclusive offers, please go to www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates. I hope you've had as much fun listening to this one as I did doing the interview. This is a cracking one. Hope you enjoy. Thank you for taking the time to do this. You know, I know you're really busy guys, but when I first seen Mind Pump, I thought, oh God, not another fitness YouTube channel. But it is quite amazing, like the quality, the message you're putting out there, and it's a cracking podcast and videos. So for people under a rock who don't know you, can you just give a quick intro from each person, just to say who you are and how you fit into the juggernaut?
So my name is Sal Di Stefano. I was brought on the team just to give the brand like a handsome, good-looking, sexy, muscular, and super intelligent, just like a small piece of the pie as a representative.
We just needed a token Italian.
Yeah.
So, we recruited him.
Yeah. We found Justin in a Sears catalog. We were actually flipping through in the bra section.
Yeah.
Right. I used to use those as porn magazines.
I filled those out nicely.
Yeah. And Adam,
basically
the
brains behind all of this. Like if it wasn't, Mind Pump wouldn't exist.
We would just be out of water.
If you have any complex questions about fitness, health, wellness, chemistry,
skip over
Adam's
me.
the guy.
Yeah.
You ask.
Yeah. Word definitions.
No, all joking aside, we've been in fitness professionally for decades. I've been doing it for 22 21 or 22 years now. Adam and Justin both, I think, 17 years each. We've been doing this for a long time. We managed health clubs. We've been fitness entrepreneurs. And what brought us together was just a love of fitness, wellness, and really just also a disdain for the myth and bullshit that permeates the fitness industry, at least that runs the fitness industry or seems to. And so we're just tied together by a love of fitness and a hate of bullshit.
And it certainly comes across, it's people listen to your podcast, not just for the fitness advice and the it's the banter, it's the wit, it's the fun from you guys back and forth. So how did you all meet? Is it the friendship that produced this, or did it just gradually
Not really.
go?
Yeah, I wasn't friends with any of these guys.
No, I don't think any of us really like each other outside of the podcast. Sal's pretty much the resident nerd.
Yeah.
If it's up to him on a weekend, he's probably reading out of the encyclopedia, so there's not much I can do with him outside of the podcast.
Yep.
But I think actually what makes the chemistry work, because the three of us, we weren't friends before the podcast started.
Well, I met you. The very first time I met Adam was a long time ago, actually.
The baby seal trip.
Yeah, so we were. I was out.
You guys are saving the baby seals.
Yeah,
that was a good cause.
We both. No, it wasn't saving the baby seals,
No.
Justin. There's a lot of people that want to save baby seals. We feel like there needs to be a voice for the otthe side because the fur is just so soft.
It is.
It's
like lavender.
It's exactly like lavender.
Yeah.
We all met, believe it or not, right before we started the podcast. And I knew of these guys because we all started our fitness career at 24-Hour Fitness. And so we knew of each other because we were top producers, but we'd never really met. Adam and Justin were partners, and me and Doug were partners separately. And I got on the phone with Adam one day because me and him were going back through social media. We got on the phone, and I think we decided in like 5 minutes, let's start a podcast, and that was literally it.
It was a lot like the Brady Bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, when we all got together, I think part of the chemistry is actually the fact that we're so different. We have some ideas as far as our health and fitness philosophies that align with each other, but our backgrounds are really different. Justin really comes from a sports performance type of background, and I think Sal came from originally kind of the bodybuilding type of world, but is way more on the holistic, more balanced side now. And then I was kind of dabbling in the bodybuilding world myself, and so we just all have a lot of different styles, the way we train ourselves, the way we train clients. And I think what people really appreciate about the show is that we're not preaching at people, which I think sometimes can come off from a lot of fitness professionals out there where it's my way is better than your way, and it's these camps, and we separate people and we get in these little boxes. I think we do that because for marketing reasons, that's the best way to sell to people. And we kind of flip that all on its head and kind of come out there and we share with people all the different modalities and all the pluses and minuses of it, and we don't try and put people in a box. And
well, Ian, there's a lot of luckily today there is a lot of science, there is a lot of study on fitness, what gets muscles to grow, what gets you to condition, what gets you to get leaner, what improves health, reduces inflammation, all that stuff. But what's missing is the experience with that. So you either have the science people who are boring, or you have the people who are really good at communicating an idea, but their ideas are terrible because they don't know anything about fitness and health.
Or you just get like really nice asses.
That's right, which is why we have Justin on the team.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, we've been training thousands of people for decades, and what you get with that is you get lots of knowledge, and you combine it with experience, and that comes out as wisdom. And the kind of wisdom that you start to develop through training lots of people for decades is that a lot of things work, but nothing works for everybody, and the things that do work won't work for you all the time. And so you have to develop this open mind for fitness information, and you also have to understand pragmatism. That's great that study says that particular thing works, but nobody's going to do it. It's never going to happen. So we need to find a way to communicate some of that in a way that's going to be pragmatic, that people actually apply and do, that'll actually work for them. And so that's kind of our approach, and it's a bit unique in our industry of fitness.
Well, there's just a massive difference of when we were training clients between what we read and what we A lot of modalities out there that they theorize, this is going to be the best way to handle this situation. Whereas when we're actually applying these concepts to our clients, it's just not playing out that way. And it's just such an individual variance across the board. Every time we get a new client, it's like we're problem solving. And so it's not that generic. It's not that simple. And so like we have to really address these things and get people to think differently to be able to navigate through this whole process, because it's really confusing.
So true, Justin. Every single time I thought I had the answer in my career, every single time I was like, this is the way people should eat, I would get a client that would be the opposite.
Yeah.
Almost every single time. And so again, you just developed this open
Well,
mind.
the other thing that's very magical about what's made Mind Pump successful too is the humanizing factor that I think we do really well on the show. That I think that the timing is perfect for us, right? I think in our space, there's a lot of superficial, there's a lot of fake, there's a lot of bullshit, there's a lot of insecurities.
Yeah, everybody's good looking, and we're ugly.
Right.
I mean, who else is?
That's why we're on radio or podcasting.
Yeah. So I mean,
well, I think that the fitness space, when you start to meet a lot of the fitness celebrities that are out there, many of them got into working out in fitness because of their insecurities, and what's taken them to the elite level that they're at are these insecurities. And so I think a couple guys like ourselves coming in and really humanizing ourselves and making ourselves relatable to people, because that's really what it's like. You see when you look on Instagram and you see some of these guys that have millions and some of these girls that have millions of followers, and the imagery like that they put out there and the lifestyle that they present to these people doesn't really match real life. It doesn't match their own real life, much less anybody else's.
it's fake.
Yeah. Is it really the tea that's producing this?
Right.
Like, that's what I want to know.
if I see another picture of a guy coming out of his Bentley with a protein shake, I swear to God.
Right. So I think
I'm gonna
people
punch him in the dick.
I think a lot of people are wise to this now, and I think we're some of the early adopters to this very authentic, radical honesty type of message that we've been putting forward since we've started. And I believe that we're starting to shape the industry, which was part of our mission when we started. We wanted to disrupt a space that we had been in for a very long time that we think needed to be disrupted. And we've been doing that. And I feel like there's more people that are starting to follow suit now, where you're seeing more and more people putting themselves out there. And that's what we wanted. So I think it's exciting to see the direction it's going. But that's a lot of what makes Mind Pump so special. By no means are we the fittest, the strongest, the smartest. I think we're a couple of guys that have been doing this for a really long time. We've got a lot of wisdom just because of a lot of the experience and the knowledge. And and most of us are all very well read in our field. So I think we can hold a conversation with just about anybody in the space. And I think we do it through entertainment. So I think people enjoy listening to the conversation of the show. They can feel that it's real, it's authentic, it's entertaining. And then at the same time, we give you a little bit of education.
We are
along the
pretty
way.
awesome.
I mean,
That's on back.
that's the thing that definitely comes across is, you're doing it, you're having a laugh, and it's not this boring 3 sets of 10, or this is what everybody else does. You're not sitting your top off in front of a bloody Bentley or hugging a dog on the beach at sunset. You're actually giving functional tips at work, and you're having a laugh as you find it out. You guys can take a very complicated subject and make it fun, make it interesting, and you can feel each other bouncing off each other. Because we all do that at the gym. We all ask mates how to do things, and each of you, you give your little snippets, and people kind of go, oh, right, okay, I can see it from that point, and people, you learn from it, and your stuff is superb. So does that just come naturally? Do you guys have to work at this kind of friendship, or have you just slotted in?
If you two things,
Lots of work.
Yeah, if you train clients for a long time, you learn that how you communicate something is actually more important than the thing that you're communicating. Because I could have all this great information, but if I can't get the person to understand it fully and implement it, what's the use? It makes no difference. And so you said something about taking complex ideas and distilling it in ways that are understandable and relatable. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the goal. I mean, that's the goal. If I'm trying to get people to improve their health, then I can make you think I'm smart. I can sound very smart, but that's not going to change anything. I got to be able to communicate it in a way that you actually get it. And some of that comes from us training people, and some of that comes from the fact that part of our career was also teaching people how to sell training and how to sell fitness. And that's an important skill, because sales is effective communication. Real sales is not the bullshit, hucky, what is it called? Shuck and jive type of crap. I'm talking about real communication skills, and that comes from effective sales. And we have to be able to sell the idea effectively so people implement it. Like if I know that I need to tell this client to avoid particular foods because they may have a food intolerance, I have to sell it to them enough so they do it, so they actually do it, because it's a behavior. And everybody knows behaviors are very difficult to change.
Problem is, too many guys in this space are caught up in how they sound delivering that message than actually caring about what the desired outcome is, which is getting the client to actually follow the
People are
message.
still confused, though, so that means you're failing.
Right.
That's right. If you can't get somebody to implement it or to understand it, it doesn't matter.
What's the worth of it?
It makes no difference. Now, the other thing you were talking about was, I guess, our friendship. Are you inquiring about the friendship between us? Was that what you were asking?
Yeah, I mean, because, you listen to some of these podcasts and you think, yeah, that's just put on. But you guys seem to generally like each other, and you just seem to have this bond, and you all seem to sort of evolve with each other. And, when you listen to you guys, sometimes people go, oh, they just talk over each other. But you can actually hear you guys listening to each other and understanding and thinking about things in a different way because of it. So, I mean, is that just because you spend so much time together, or do you, is there tips for people listening that can become a bit more like that?
It's a lot of sexual tension, if I'm going to be quite honest.
Wow.
No, honestly,
I knew it, Sal.
Sal's wanting to fuck me since we started this thing.
and it only took me 2 days.
You're so creepy.
No, you know what? I don't
2
have
dates.
I don't have the answer for that. I can guess, and it's hard. It's hard when all of us have met those people that you just immediately you get into flow with. You get into those deep conversations. You feel like you've known them for a long time. The first time you met them. It was like that the first time all of us sat down in a room.
I think there is a single thing that what makes all the difference, and and a lot of it has to do with our age and experience and where we're at in our lives right now. We've talked about this many times off air before, that the likelihood of the three of us, or four including Doug too, that we would have got together 15 years ago probably would have never worked. And a lot of that is because much of our ego is dissolved as we've aged and we've gotten wiser. And even when we started this, there was no doubt how big we wanted to grow this and how big that it would be one day. And no one gave a fuck about who was the face of it. Or, I mean, we still to this day, like if we were to bring somebody in to evaluate the business, they would probably chuckle at us, the fact that we haven't officially titled people like CMO, CEO, COO. We run it very much so like a law firm where there's just partners. We're all partners. We all get shit done. We all contribute to the pot. No one gives a fuck about who's doing what project, what takes more time, what's harder work.
We all want the best guy to do the best guy for the job to do the job. Yeah. And if that's not me, who cares? And I said this a couple episodes ago, and I think it's very true with the three of us, is that we're all confident enough to lead, but we're also all humble enough to follow. So
it bleeds in the conversation. Yeah. It bleeds in the conversation. And, a lot of people that haven't been listening since day one don't know this, but we had a fourth host with us, and it was a buddy of mine, Craig Capurso, who I think smart guy, really, really, really good dude, and very successful.
Hardworking dude.
Very successful on his own, but it just didn't gel and it didn't work. And a lot of that was because he needed that limelight. He's used to being that, and none of us cared about that. None of us cared about who's dominating the conversation, who's going to talk more right here, who's going to take turns. Like we wanted it always to be organic. And that's how this is. There's some episodes that we do where we interview somebody and it's totally in, Sal's wheelhouse, and there's very little contributed from Justin and I. And we don't sit afterwards and be like, well, Sal, you dominated that conversation.
That was a failure.
Yeah, and vice versa. There's going to be people that come in that I think are more my wheelhouse or Justin's wheelhouse. And so I think that's what's special, is that nobody cares who's driving. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've read Stealing Fire before, and they talk about how the Navy SEALs, how even though they have like a commander or one guy that's leading, like many times when they're out and they're training, they switch back and forth who's leading the group, and they just naturally fall into order. There's no rule like, hey, when I do this,
it's an understanding.
Yeah, it's just an understanding that when this guy takes the lead, the other two guys just naturally follow, and we all kind of have that. And you really have to have dissolved your ego in order to do that. And I think where many people that try partnerships or a podcast with 3 or more people where they struggle.
It's a clash of egos.
It is. It's a clash of egos, and no one had that coming into this. In fact, as this business continues to grow and evolve.
It's gotten better, I think.
Yeah, we continue to look at ways to pull ourselves out of it and put others, which has also served us in the growth, because instantly what we did as we started to grow is we started reaching out to other professionals and bringing them up along with us. When you look at the Jordan Shallows, you look at Ben Greenfields, you look at Aaron from Align Podcast, you look at
Christina Rice,
Dr. Brinks. These are people that would be considered our peers, and how a lot of people in this space would look at as competitors, because they too sell programs, or they too do sell fitness stuff online. And so other people tend to have a scarcity mindset and look at them and go, oh, fuck, we can't really do much with each other, or, oh, I'll only help you if you help me, where we weren't like that. We saw these people as they had brilliant information that could be provided to our audience. We care more about that than we care about, oh, will that take from sales from us? No one gives a shit about that. And I think because we have that attitude, I think it's served us very well.
Yeah, I think it's very unique, though, too. I mean, that's why you don't see a lot of 3 hosted podcasts out there. It is like its own dynamic that we just sort of, I mean, it literally just happened. It's not like we went and sought after this and this was the formula, the magic formula that was going to work. It just was like, wow, let's try it with 4 guys. Oh, now it's just 3, and like, let's roll with this, because actually, like Craig had to step away because what we were talking about was a little bit too racy for a lot of his sponsors that were paying him every month. And so that was an issue. And we had a predicament where we had to like decide, are we going to keep going?
Yeah. Are we going to be able to censor ourselves, or do we just continue doing what we're doing, which is be authentic, and we're not going to censor ourselves? And so that's what happened.
It's strange because usually you have, like say you go to Super Training TV and all these kind of places, you have one person who leads it, and they maybe cover everything and everybody else chips in. But you guys, like you said, you kind of switch in and out, you each take on the roles, you focus on who's maybe the better person to lead that section, and the other 2 support each other. And it's a really unusual dynamic because, like you said, the ego is an amazing thing. And a lot of guys can't handle that. So how did you lose your egos? Because you mentioned there you just let that go as you sort of progressed. So
I think much of that was done, I think, leading before this business started. I think that we were all, and that's what I meant by this probably wouldn't have worked 15 years ago. I think a lot of our history and past, I've personally had.
Plus, we did a lot of ayahuasca together.
This is a poison frog.
This is not true.
No, that's not
but
true.
I personally have had at least, off the top of my head, I can think of 5 businesses that I've had with partners that failed, or we didn't continue on. And so I've had a lot of past businesses that I've seen what has happened with partnerships. And so I knew going into this one that what I had to be, like the role I had to play. And I'm such a team player. I think these guys are such team players that nobody cares about being that. And I think it's because of where we're at in our life. I don't think that we would have been there. Yeah. And I think it continues to evolve as we continue to grow the show, because the more and more the ego dissolves for all of us, and the more and more we allow each other to let lead and do whatever, I think the better experience it's been for the audience. And so it's been a very natural progression.
It took me a long time to trust Sal. I mean, he's very slick.
Mm-hmm.
And that...
I leave a grease trail everywhere I go. Losing ego might not be accurate, because you need an ego, right? Your ego helps you manage life. And I think it's just more of maybe a more mature ego might be a better way of describing it. But, really it's just, here's the bottom line. You have 2 choices when you're working with a partner, and partnerships are like marriages, really no different. Like, you're deciding, this is a person I'm betting half of this potential business on this friendship or this partnership.
Just no sex.
Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah. But when you look at your partner, you have 2 decisions to make. One decision is, okay, I'm working with this person because I trust them and I believe in them, or I'm working with this person because I just need someone to help me. Now, if you're working with someone because you trust them and you believe in them, you also simultaneously have to understand that, and have to check your ego in the sense that person, I respect this person enough to have a business with them. If they have an issue, if they bring something up, if they say I'm doing something wrong, as much as it stings, as much as it hurts, or as much as I feel like, I'm being slighted, I need to step outside of that for a second and listen to what they're saying. Take it seriously. and consider it. Actually open-mindedly consider it, and that'll do you wonders. But that's not just with partnerships. That's with any relationship you have with anybody, depending on how deep that relationship is. This is a business, we're building something together.
Ian, I'll give you an example of something that happened yesterday. And Justin has no idea I'm going to share this, but I think it's a really good example of how special this team is.
Special Olympics.
I was talking to an intern that we had right now and talking about how partnerships and dealing in business with somebody else and how challenging that is, but how special of a partnership that we have amongst all of us. And I said, recently we've launched this IGTV, which is basically Instagram TV, right? So now we're shooting these videos for that. And, Sal and I have spent a lot of time on the cameras. It comes more natural. I wouldn't say it comes natural for any of us, but it comes more natural for us than it does Justin. And so we're going back and we're all kind of shooting these videos. And you could see that Justin is just like, he's not comfortable. He doesn't like doing it. And he knows he's going to put in some work to try and get better at it. And then you could see him too go like, what's the point? Like, what's the point of that would be only his ego that feels that he has to do that. It's like he can step away from that. He can let go of that because it's not a strength of his. And then he can go put his energy into something else where he is his strength and better himself. And nothing has to be said like that. No one communicated that. It was like we were doing it. It felt Justin wasn't vibing what he was doing. He's like, I don't want to put that out there. It's not very good. Sal and I would go do that. And then instantly he found himself another project that contributes to the business, and he starts putting all of his energy towards that. There was no conversation around that. There was no, Justin, you don't do this. Justin, you need to. No one needed to do that.
Nobody had to be careful for feelings or step around what's going on. And you know what? That is the mark, by the way. That is the mark of a true leader. What Justin demonstrates doing that is because a true leader, a real leader, first of all, leads from the front, but then also knows who's the best people on the team to do the best job. And a good leader will look and say, you are better at this. Yeah. You do this. I don't need to do everything. In fact, if I do everything, that's going to mean that we're not going to succeed. And we all do that with different aspects.
It's not
of the
easy
business.
though. Of course, that was not an easy process or for me to recognize. I'm very self-critical and I know where my strengths lie and where my weaknesses lie. But yeah, that's something that and I'm glad you brought that up. But yeah, it was definitely a difficult thing for me to realize oh man, I'm not good at this. I have to own that. And then I also have to recognize, like Sal said, where people really shine and let them shine even brighter. Right. And so that's just different. It's a different mentality.
I mean, it definitely comes across because, 1 minute I'm watching a video and it's like Sal leading it, then it's like you go into another one and he's nowhere near it, and you think, oh, that's strange. I wonder how they kind of, dictate who does what, but it's, there's certain things you do or certain topics and certain people lead, and I was really interested in that dynamic because, 1 minute it could be about deadlifting rituals with Jordan Shallow and you think, oh, this is amazing, and then I listen to you guys talking to like Emily, like Sex with Emily, and I can actually hear you guys opening up to each other and learning more about each other from it. It's a really interesting dynamic. So, I mean, do you think it's changed you guys doing this podcast?
Oh, yeah.
Are you kidding me? This is the most
growth in the last 3 years than in my previous 33 years, for sure.
That was like a whole nother chapter.
Yeah,
like a whole nother thing.
It's funny. It's when you connect with people over something, you tend to push each other with that thing. So, like, if you make a friend and you guys connect over drinking, then that tends to be what you guys do a lot of. The thing that connects us is we're all very growth-minded. And so we push each other in that direction. And when we podcast, it's interesting. We put the headphones on, we start going, and there is no filter. We just go and we push each other to go, and we push ourselves to go deeper and deeper. And it's probably the most therapeutic thing I've ever done, I think. Absolutely. I went through a divorce while we started the podcast. A 15-year marriage dissolved on air. Literally, I'm talking about this on the podcast, and I don't know if I would have survived had I not had Mind Pump that during that time.
It's also like and Sal talks about this a lot. Like, there's something about when you put this out on air and then you go back and you have to listen to it. It's crazy. It's really weird because a lot of times we all talk and we just say shit hot air all day long, and no one goes back and revisits that, like what exactly they said. But we have that ability now that when we say something on air, that I can go back and listen. And being very honest, many times I listen, especially during the beginning of the podcast when we first started, I would go back and be like, God damn, I sound fucking stupid. That's terrible. Like, do I really believe that? And so you start questioning yourself and your own beliefs and the things that you say because you have this ability to go back and listen. Because a lot of times we react and we speak out of emotion. And then when you get a chance to go back and listen to yourself and the way you articulated a point, it makes me really think deeper into that point. Like, is that really how I feel? Or is that really how I believe? Or is that really how I want to come across? And like, so I think that has really forced a lot of growth in all of us, right?
It's very educational. Like you said, to listen to yourself and how you work through ideas and just present them and communicate them. I mean, we've worked out so many ideas that, I've thought about forever, and just to hear, their perspectives has either sharpened or, swayed me in a different direction, which is, that's growth. It's crazy. But we're doing this constantly every single day and trying to challenge it from every angle now, not just fitness and health. We're trying to really tackle, other ideas that are out there, and are those what I believe? Is that truth? And I don't know if we could sort of sum it all into one thing. It's really just trying to figure out what is truth and what we do kind of subscribe to.
Well, Ian also asked things that I think advice for people. So I think something that we picked up on early, and I would give advice to anybody who's trying to create a podcast or do something similar was the reps. We saw the average podcast was only putting out 1 to maybe 3 episodes. And, we all knew, when we first started this, by no means did we have these egos where we're like, oh, we're so good. Oh, man, we're so good at this. But what we all knew is hey, you know what? We're providing good information. We're getting great feedback. And we all know how much we'll put the work in to get better at our craft. And so now it's been about reps, just every time, getting podcasts, getting episodes, and just constantly recording. And each time everybody is so critical of themselves that they go back and they listen to how they articulate, they listen to how they pause between guys, they let other guys speak. If we, some people, like you said, think that we talk over each other, but what a lot of people don't know is sometimes there's strategy to that. I know Justin and Sal so well that I can tell, Sal has this unbelievable gift where he will answer a question or give a point, and I can tell when he's made his point, and then I can tell when he's filling air. Him filling space. Then he'll go and he could keep talking for 30 minutes. But then I know once he's made his point, a lot of times I will interrupt, and it's not because I need to talk over him or I want to fit myself in.
Jump in.
It's time to jump in and transition. I see the same thing with Justin. Justin will start talking. He'll make his point, and then I can see his body. I can see the way he's moving. I can see the way
he's trailing.
Right, and then I'll come in and
He's going down.
I'll insert myself, and I think that we all have this ability to
insert.
Yeah, to insert into each other.
He's a great inserter. Very, very large inserter.
So there is some art. There is some things that skills that we have, I think, developed over time. It's not like just 3 guys that got lucky and started talking on a show. We do try and improve upon the craft.
We've done as many podcasts in 3 years as most podcasts will do in something like 10.
Yeah, that.
800 over 800 podcasts in 3 years. That's a lot.
Yeah. It's those are the ones that people enjoy the most. It's the ones listening to you guys, and you bring each other out your shell, and you kind of delve into each other, because I know those kind of podcasts. It's you can see they've got a written list of questions, and you go, oh, here we go, and it's they get a guest on, and it's his new book, and you could just change the name at the top, and it's just the same question, but with just a different site. But with you guys, you just never know where it's going to go, and it's you can feel that vibe between each other. You're not going to let things lie. You're going to flow into each other, and you're going to help each other out. And I'm really liking that change in direction that you've taken. You're not just talking about lifting. You're talking about how to pump up the life, of a guy. You're opening up to stuff that maybe a lot of guys are not willing to even consider. And it's really good. So has there been anybody on the podcast recently or since the start that's blown you away, an amazing guest, or it's maybe made you think about things differently?
Yeah,
a few.
Yeah, we've had, every single guest we've had on, after they leave, there's always 1 or 2 pieces of information that will change the way we communicate just a little bit. I can see it and I can feel it after we meet someone, how it influences the way we either podcast or communicate something. But one guest in particular I can think of, and mainly because we almost didn't interview this individual. Now, I used to own a wellness facility, and I owned it for about 12 years, and there were a few wellness, holistic practitioners in my facility. Now, back then, I was a your typical personal trainer. Like I knew biomechanics, I knew lifting weights, I knew building muscle, burning body fat. I was not on that holistic side, but these two individuals were very good on that side, and they used to talk about this guy named Paul Chek all the time, and how they took these Chek practitioner courses, and they just ranted and raved about this guy. And I looked him up on YouTube a couple times, and he looked pretty interesting, but he sounded kind of weird. He's this really ripped, 50-something-year-old guy, would talk about biomechanics, gut health, and then talk about God and all kinds of ways. So I knew about this guy. And so years later, we start Mind Pump, and I thought to myself, I said, I bet you that guy would be an interesting person to have on the show. So I bring it up to the fellas. They hadn't heard of him yet. And we decided to invite him on the show. And 2 days or something like that before we were slated to fly down, I don't remember exactly what was going on, but our schedule was absolutely insane. And it was a really hard stretch to make it down there, do this interview, and come back. And everybody was tired. I think we had just come back from another trip. And we all had a meeting the day before, and we were almost going to cancel on this interview because we were just exhausted. And the reason why we decided to go down was because we had already made the commitment. And one thing that I really respect about the people I work with is everybody has a lot of integrity. And we've already made a promise. We're going to go down. We're not going to lie. If we do cancel, we'll be honest. But that's a stupid reason, so let's do it. So we flew down, met with Paul Chek, and it was extremely impactful. He's the godfather of wellness. He truly is the godfather. A lot of the things that we know about wellness and health today, he was championing in the 80s and 90s before anybody talked about the microbiome and gut health. Paul Chek was talking about it. Before anybody was using a stability ball for exercises, Paul Chek was teaching courses on it. He's also an I think he was an ex-Ranger. He was in the military, boxer, high level. He's 55 years old. He could do walking lunges.
Mechanic.
With 300 pounds on his back. He was a stunt car driver. He's just a wild, hyper-intelligent, just interesting individual. And so I would say that for me, he was one of the most impactful for sure.
Well, that's what's kind of neat about all of us too, is I think that we all have different people that impact us differently, right? So, one of my favorite guests that we had was Tom Bilyeu. And Tom Bilyeu, I'm just intrigued by the guy's brilliance in business. Like he was a part of Quest when Quest turned into a multi-billion-dollar company, like literally overnight, one of the fastest growing companies in the last decade. And so to be able to talk to a guy like that, and we got a hold of Tom right when he was starting Impact Theory, so that was a really cool thing to meet somebody who had just sold off his ownership of Quest, made his millions of dollars from that, then transitions over to start up his whole new empire, Impact Theory, and we had him on the show early on. So since then, we've become really close friends. I talk to him on a pretty regular basis, and I love all his insight. We've created a relationship where I can reach out to him and ask him stuff that we're going through on our side of the business and pick his brain, and he's always got great information. And I just love the way he conducts himself with other people. Like he's just, out of all the people that we've met, I pride myself on, as far as the team, as the relationship guy. So I try and manage and maintain a lot of our relationships that when we connect with people. And Tom, in my opinion, out of everybody that we've met, is one of the best at doing this. And I am true believer of your true net worth is your network. And he's somebody who lives by that. And I also try and live by that. I've taken a lot from some of the things that he's applied in his success. And, he gave me a little tidbit, and I'll share it on your show. So it was a game changer for me when we were talking about just reading books. And he talks about how, audiobooks just like changed his life. And he goes, I burn through an audiobook, almost every other day. And I was like, how do you get through it? You sit there for like 8-10 hours. He's like, no, I can listen to it at like 2.5 to 3 speed. And I thought, well, that sounds ridiculous. Like that, like what? It sounds like the Chipmunks if you do that. That sounds stupid. I already have a hard time staying focused. If I speed the damn thing up, I'm not going to fucking be able to listen to it. But he said, no, you don't start off at 3 speed right away. You start off at 1.25. You let your brain adjust to it. Then you go to 1.5. Then you go to 1.75. Then you go to 2. And I took that little bit of advice and I started doing it, and it blew me away how actually I was retaining more information at a higher speed. Because what I found out, every time I sped my audio book up, it forced me to concentrate and focus on the book even more. And then I was able to consume content at such a fast rate that it's something that has accelerated my personal growth just in the 3 years that we've been doing this. And that was just a very small tip of all the great tips and things that he's provided for me in that interview. And I give that every time I talk to somebody. That was a game changer for me because I'm somebody who, if I sit down, I got to be in a very peaceful, quiet place if I'm going to open a book up and I'm going to read. And then if I'm listening to an audio book, I can easily get distracted. I would have never thought that speeding the track up, and challenging myself to actually listen deeper into it, I would actually retain more information. That was a gift that I got from him that I always pass along.
Yeah, it might surprise you guys that this answer, but I definitely agree with both of them, and I love those. Two guests are two of my top two for sure, for both those reasons that they mentioned. But for me, it was Perry Marshall, and the reason being is because we did not expect the conversation to go in that direction at all. This guy is a marketing guy, like a wizard, and he's done like crazy things in the internet marketing world, and so we were totally just ready for that, and to talk about that, pick his brain, apply these concepts to our business, and really get value from that. And we ended up talking about the
evolution,
the meaning of God, and like
intelligent design.
Yeah, intelligent design, and he had like all these theories that he had fleshed out on his own, and just wanted to kind of get into it and present it. And I don't know, I guess because my whole life I've been like a very deep thinker, and this is something that I tend to come back to a lot just on my own. And it was just really enjoyable to see that other people out there that are smart people are just like, they're questioning all these things. They're trying to find purpose and meaning and all this. We can get beyond just like a lot of these surface topics and these things that we try and present as value to our audience. Let's stretch our audience a little bit. That was the first time we really stretched our audience.
I was going to say, I'm glad you brought that up, because this was something that I remember us doing that, and we were kind of a little like weary about it. We're like, this guy's really into this. And we said, fuck it, let's see where our audience how they will receive this.
It was polarizing, which was awesome.
Yeah, it was one of the first like polarizing interviews that we did, where we're like, we're going to take somebody somewhere that nobody will expect us to take them, and let's see how our audience receives it. So that was definitely a pivotal point in the business, because that was the first thing that kind of gave us that okay, like, you know what? Fuck this. If we want to go somewhere with somebody, we're going to go there. Yeah. We're not going to be afraid to go somewhere with a guest, because of people are going to get turned off. And we now continue to challenge ourselves that way when we have interviews. And again, I look up to Howard Stern. I mean, one of the greatest interviewers of all time. And one of the things that he's brilliant about is that, and you mentioned this earlier, that if, Obama goes on and he interviews with 10 different, interviewers, and one of them is Howard Stern, who are you listening to interview Obama? 100% you were listening to Howard Stern fucking interview him, because if there's something that nobody else got out, it'll
totally new.
It will for sure be Howard Stern that gets something out of that conversation, where the other 9 interviews could sound very similar.
It's the same canned question.
Right. And we see this in podcasting. Once you get to a certain level as far as the size of your podcast, authors and doctors,
you become a part of a circuit.
Yeah, you become part of a circuit. Everybody wants to be on your show, and they come around, and that's a way to promote their book or do their thing. And everybody asks the same questions. Oh, why did you write the book? And da 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 da. And it's like, blah. After you've heard one interview of that person, you don't need to hear any more, because they ask the same questions. Well, we want to challenge ourselves that if they come on Mind Pump, you have no fucking idea what we may ask them. We may take some author into their personal sex life. You never know, or talk about a childhood fight that they used to get into when they're kids, or pick at their insecurities. So I love that, we do that now, and that Justin bringing up that guest, that was early on in the show that we started doing that, and I think that was a very pivotal point.
No, I love that, because this is where I come from, is I want you to come to the site and be a better person than when you left, or find something different about the guest, because if not, you can just go on to one of 8,000 podcasts they've done to promote their book. I want you to come away and go, I didn't know about that. I had Mark Bell talking about a pivotal moment that gave him an awakening. Aubrey was talking about his shouting. It's like they all have these like really weird things that they just start talking about, and they just open up about it, and I just let them go, because it's maybe a chance that they've maybe not had a chance to talk about that on another show, because they're just like, what's the best protein powder? What's the best blah, blah, blah? What's the best program to follow? But, there's so much more to you guys than just the gym stuff. And that's why I like your show. You make people think about stuff outside of, how can I get the best abs? Or how can I do this? How can I do that? And it really comes across well.
Well, that gets boring after a while. And, the other thing, too, is it's a compelling conversation is compelling, obviously. It's got to be compelling for us, too. So if I'm talking to a guest and there's a direction I want to go because I'm genuinely interested, I'm going to go there. And what's going to come out of that is you're on the other side when you're listening, it is a compelling conversation. If I'm going to go the direction I think I'm supposed to go, many times it's going to sound that way, and it's going to sound canned. It's going to sound, scripted. And at the end of the day, like I said before, earlier in this episode, I could have 15 different great ideas, but if I can't communicate a single one of them, then what's the use? But if I can communicate just one, or if you listen to just one because maybe you're listening to a compelling episode, or maybe you're entertained enough to pay attention, or maybe the way I said it, sounded great to you. Now I've done my job. And that's at the end of the day, our goal is to impact people, or at least provide some good value. And you can't do that, or at least it's not as effective if it doesn't come across that way. If it comes across as canned or the same, or I knew he was going to ask at, or boring, like you're not getting anywhere.
So if we were to throw out, like a framework, let's say, forget about what's the best rep scheme for this and how to do the breathing better and all that kind of stuff, what do you think makes a good guy? Is there daily habits they should be able to do? Is there physical benchmarks each guy should be able to do? If you had a guy come into your site and that's what they took away from it, what kind of things would you get them to do?
Well, two things. First, you have to start with a strong framework or a direction. And what I mean by that is,
what do you mean by you explain the question to me? I'm confused.
So I think are you asking how we would direct people to get into a fit and healthy lifestyle?
Well, so say if somebody came to you and said, "Okay, I really want to be more like you guys. I want to mind pump my life." How could what makes you guys you? Do you do certain habits? Do you read such and such? Be open and vulnerable. What makes you guys tick?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Justin said, being comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's a good one. I think the other one is always being open. Here it is. Make friends with what you don't know. That's a big one. You have to be okay with being wrong. In fact, you have to seek out, in order to truly seek out what is right, you have to be open to being wrong. Otherwise, your own ego gets in the way. Well, something I practice.
I also think we live by, and I've shared this in interviews before, and it's been a long time since I've shared this on the podcast, but this is probably the most impactful thing that ever happened to me in business. And I remember I was about 22 years old, and this guy later on became a good friend of mine, and I had just crushed goal for the month. And so I'm celebrating, patting myself on the back how great I am because I did like 120%. My team did really well. I worked for a gym and we had a bunch of trainers. And my boss was coming in that day. And I was excited to see my boss because I just crushed goal. And so I'm pretty sure he's going to come in and tell me how great I am. Everybody likes that, right? So he comes in and he actually does the opposite. He comes in and he picks my business apart. He tells me about all the things because what I was known for, or what I was not known for, was my admin skills. And what I was not good at was I was not organized. I didn't do the paperwork very well, but I was great at moving people. I was great at getting a team to follow direction and move towards a goal and win. And so he came in and actually pointed out all the things that I needed to improve upon. And I'm a very, goal-oriented person, and I'm somebody who I'm not going to get all butthurt about that. I sat down at my desk, and the very next day I'm working on getting really organized. And my buddy at the time, he was my boss, comes in and he sees me, and it's like 5 o'clock at night, which is prime time inside the gym. And I should be out I would be normally out talking to members and stuff, but I was back getting myself all organized. And he goes, "What the fuck are you doing?" I said, my boss came in and he said, I need to do this, I need to do that. And so I'm getting this all organized, this and that. And he takes my desk and he fucking clears it, throws everything on the floor. And I got really pissed at him. What did you do that for? And he says, "Listen," he says, "you're 21 years old and you're in this position already for a reason." He's "Oh, you're really fucking good at some things. You're not so good at this." He goes, "Stop focusing on the things that you're not good at. Focus on what you're good at and be fucking great." And that advice stuck with me for the rest of my life. And I've continued to apply it in almost anything and everything that I do. And I teach it to others. And I think that's something that we do really, really well. And I think a lot of people make this mistake of looking at themselves, at all their failures, or looking at the things that they're not doing well, instead of paying attention to the things that they do well or the things that they are good at, and putting a lot of their energy at being great at those things. And it's amazing when you start to do that, because it's a lot more fun to work on the things that you already enjoy and you're good. And there's always room to improve and get better.
You'll make more of an impact that way as well.
And so I think a lot of what we've been talking about all day today about, this special thing that Mind Pump has, a lot of that is I think we all kind of live by that philosophy. Mm-hmm. Nobody's in here nitpicking at things. And I think people coming into fitness should think the same way too. I think, trying to do this is know your strengths, know what you're good at, and be great at it. And don't dwell on the things that you're not good at. Don't be beating yourself over it and putting a ton of your energy into trying getting good at the things that you're sucking at. Put a lot of your energy, and that's not to say you just neglect. If you're shitty at something, you just say, fuck it off, don't do it. But 80% of your time should be put into the things that you're already good at and be great at it. And then the small 20% or less should be focused on the things that you're not so good at.
Yeah, the other thing that I think we enjoy doing, where I was going earlier, is when you have a strong belief about something or an understanding about a particular topic or subject, whether it be fitness, health, or whatever, seek out the opposing view and be open-minded and seek out the best people on the opposing side. So what I mean by that is, let's say I believe that eating a paleo diet is the absolute best thing for health, and I think that's the best. I'm convinced. I've read all the research and literature, and I've tried it myself. I feel phenomenal. I've seen it with clients. And I'm convinced that it's the best way to eat. I'm going to seek out the best vegan representatives I possibly can, people who I know are going to make the best, most compelling arguments. And I'm not going to argue or fight with them. I'm going to listen with an open mind, and I'll debate and discuss with them, but I'm going to remain open-minded. And out of that I'm either going to, A, come out stronger in my position because now I understand another position, or B, that person is going to change my mind, which is actually my favorite. This is actually the thing that I think all of us love the most, is when we can get our minds changed in a way. We call it a paradigm shattering moment. When that can happen, that's a beautiful moment. Now, most people don't like that. Most people don't like to be that wrong because they identify with the
it's uncomfortable
knowledge and information that they have. But at the end of the day, the way we look at it is, I'm not wrong anymore. This is wonderful. I can now move forward, no longer being wrong like I was yesterday. Mm-hmm. And we treat everything that we talk about on the show that way. And we've actually changed our position on a few things as we've done the show because we've seeked that out. Where I'll have something, I used to make fun of those vibrating plates that people would use in the gym that would vibrate. It was like a big vibrator. And we'd laugh about it, make big jokes about it. Well, as we were making fun of it, I seeked out people who defended it and really gave compelling arguments. And I tested the things and tried it out and kept listening to them, and I came out with a completely different opinion. We talked about it on our show, and that right there is, I think, if you move forward in life that way, you're going to continue to grow and learn, and you'll either be stronger in what you believe in, and more educated in what you believe in, and being able to communicate what you believe in better, or you're going to come out and you're going to change your mind and you're going to be better for it.
You got to be open to that, though.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that comes across for you guys, because you're like me, is you want to learn and you want to ask questions about it. You don't want to just pigeonhole people. You're open to see the other side. And that's why I might not 100% agree with the politics of somebody. I might not agree with their outlook in life, but I'll ask them that, and I'll let them, I'll contemplate what they're saying. So how do you guys take what these guys are giving you? You've done about 800 episodes. How do you consider these things? Because knowledge is great, but if it's just a fact if you don't do anything with it. How can we make sure people are actioning what they're learning from these podcasts?
So your question is, how can we make sure that people are taking the information that our guests are saying?
Well, there's a little formula to what we do, and it's happened over time. Like we've built this formula. Like everything that we do is organic, is raw, is authentic, and is not planned. But there is somewhat of a structure, an idea to what we want to accomplish in an episode. So, and some of that is even new and recent. In the last 6-7 months, we've kind of divided our show into two parts, and the first part of that being like current events. And the way we manage that is that each guy is into different things and reads different articles, reads different books, is into different studies, and everybody is their own responsibility to grow, learn, and educate themselves. And tomorrow when I get on this or after this podcast, we'll be recording our podcast for the day. And we know that there's topics that each of us may bring up in that current event. And sometimes Sal dominates that with 2 or 3 studies, and we talk and elaborate on that the whole entire time. Other times I'll have something that I bring and we talk the entire. Other times Justin will. But everybody's always got some of those in their back pocket to discuss. And we just know that you have 3 guys with differing opinions. And we know that we'll have that. We try and stay current. So we do current events, things that are happening right now. So if it's popping up in news right now or all over the place, so people see that, they're already hearing that shit out there in the news. And then they get to hear the 3 of us have a very organic conversation around it. So we know that we're adding value there, right?
Well, I think too, like, we have a forum, and this forum for us is like our lifeline. This is our direct communication with our fan base. And so a lot of times we check it every day and we answer questions, and it's just great for building our community. But we get a lot of feedback about the show as far as like what type of guests we've had on, and what they've took from it, and whether or not it was to any value for them. And then also like seeking out the counter to that, message that we've just brought on. Like, we have to look at all our episodes from like a bird's eye perspective. Like, what have we covered? Like, what has dominated and been the majority of what we've covered? And like, can we get another perspective somewhere in there? And so we're always kind of critical of that, and like what our audience is actually learning from us and like taking away from us. So yeah, it's something that is always on our mind. And like, so when we go to look at topics, or even just between the 3 of us, like, what can we cover that we haven't touched on, or we need to elaborate more on, because there's still questions within the forum that are uncertain.
Yeah, the second half of the show, so the first half is all current events, and the second half of the show is more fitness dominated. And I don't think you can listen to a single Mind Pump episode and not get some sort of health and fitness knowledge out of that portion of the show, whether it's one thing or a plethora of things that we've dropped in that. There's always something that's informative that somebody can walk away. And so, and we don't write it down. We don't say, oh, let's make sure of it. We just know that this is the part of the show where this is our wheelhouse now. It's what we've all been talking about for 20 years of our life. So it's pretty easy. And as long as we stay on relevant topics, like Justin's saying, that our forums talking about, or questions that people have, you're going to probably get a gem from one of us. And one of us, and what I think is really special is that we'll take a specific topic, and we can say anything right now, right? The butt wink and a squat, right? So people talk about that all the time. And the 3 of us have different point of views on that and how we talk to it and speak to it. And maybe the way that Sal articulates it, it connects with 30% of the audience. And then the way I say it connects with 25% of the audience. And then Justin does
90%.
Right. Yeah. Connects with everybody else with his great analogies that he gives all the time.
Yeah.
Ramp water.
So I think there is somewhat of a formula to that. But it's kind of naturally just kind of worked itself out over the time that we've been doing this. But we definitely we're not so random in an episode that, it just magically happes every time.
Sometimes.
Sometimes magic happens like
sometimes
that.
We're random.
But I think everybody knows that, the first half of the show we'll be addressing current events and what's going on and what everyone's currently reading or into. And then the back half of the show we'll address either our QA questions, which are mostly fitness related or personal growth related. Or we'll do like a specific topic that we want to talk about for an entire hour.
Well, there's some of your podcasts I listen to and I think, oh, like what are they talking about? And then there's and I'll go away for 5 minutes and a gem will come to my mind, like you're saying, and it's different people with different little mentions, and you go, oh yeah, I see what they're meaning there. So how do you see Mind Pump evolving? What's the future? What do you want to take this, and what do you want to do with Mind Pump?
Well, I guess in the near future, it's to continue to grow the brand and continue to reach more people through new media, through YouTube, social media, through podcast, all new media, all internet based, and to grow it that way. In the distant future, I think I can see us developing talent. Yeah. We want to be on the first.
We got a Space Force.
So. Yeah, we want to be the first podcast of the United States Space Force on the moon. No, I think I
want to be General Akbar.
I could see us developing. Wow, Akbar, huh? What the? I could see us developing other personalities, other people.
I really see that. I mean, we're going through right now kind of a rebranding and a new look on all of our social media, our website, all that stuff. And a lot of it, again, this is going back to the dissolving of the ego for us. Like, nobody needs to be on the face of our business. We don't want to be in the limelight. We want to use others imagery, others people's content. I think we really want to be mavens in this industry. Like, we got the main attraction and we've got the attention, I think, of a lot of people in the fitness space. Now we want to bring others up. Now we have other people that we think are providing really good information. They just don't have the platform. We want to be that launching pad for other professionals out there. And I think I think that's really where all of us want to be. I think the dream for the four of us is to be sitting at the beach fucking 90% of the time. And I think letting others develop and grow and continue to get out there. Like, none of us cared to have the fame or be the face of something. So I think the future of Mind Pump is really the people that we start to develop underneath us.
Yeah, well, I mean, originally I wanted, like a mission out of each kind of podcast. Like, I want to talk about so-and-so, or they demonstrate how to do X. And I found, like, you can't always get that in each podcast. You can't just sit down and go, okay, I want to get this out of that, because they don't always go down that way. But it's little gems that people take that can possibly change their lives, and I think, like, just this has been about an hour already, and I think a lot of people are going to sit there and go, I really like that site. But there are all these little gems, and they're going to go, okay, I'm going to go and listen, and your fitness stuff will change people's lives. The banter between you will change lives. And, for me, it's finding out more about people and learning about how to be a better guy and fix, having a better life. And you guys are certainly teaching people to do that, and you should be really proud of the content you're putting out there. And I think you're definitely going to go places.
Appreciate it. I much appreciate it. Health, total health. I don't think you can name something that doesn't fall under that umbrella, to be quite honest. I mean, when you look at total health, that encompasses, of course, your physical fitness, your mental health, your spiritual health, the kinds of foods that you eat, the people that you're around, the relationships you have, how you sleep, how you live, the job that you do. Like, everything falls under the umbrella of health, the total human organism, and then the connection between you and other humans around you, and then your societies and nations in the world. And so, I mean, when you have a health podcast, yeah, we can focus a lot on fitness, on exercises and diet, and we do that too. We do that quite a bit. But when we're talking about health, and we're really interested in health for ourselves and for our families, we're going to talk a lot about everything, and that includes psychology and spirituality and relationships and sleep and whatever. All that stuff falls underneath that. So yeah, I think that might be one of the reasons why the show tends to go all over the place, is because it's all underneath the umbrella of health.
Yeah, I mean, I've literally got about 3 pages worth of questions, and I don't think I've touched any of them so far.
Welcome to Mind Pump, buddy.
So that's definitely why I would love to have you guys on again, and maybe have like more of an area to focus on each time. But I just think your site's so good that I had to let the people that are following me know about it, because I've spoken to so many different people, and everybody kind of knows Mind Pump. So what do you want people to take from this interview? Well, I don't know if you want to call it an interview, but what do you want them to go away and think about?
Ian, do you think you have more people that are just trying to get fit that are listening to you, or do you get a lot of entrepreneurs? Like, what do you think your audience is?
For me, it's just general guys who want to become better. Like I've seen podcasts that it's just salespeople and they focus towards them, but I think there's a lot of guys like me who were just a bit lost and just needed a bit more from life and didn't know where to go, and were kind of a bit into fitness, a kind of bit wanting to get their sex life better, kind of a bit get their financial stuff better. They weren't wanting to be superstars in a particular area. They just wanted to be better guys, and probably guys like that, to be honest.
So Lincoln said it really well, right? I have no respect for a man that is no wiser today than he was yesterday. And I think that if you have a lot of guys that are growth minded, and I think the thing to take away from this that really makes the podcast and all of us individually special is that fact, is that always pushing yourself to grow every single day. And do you evaluate your day like that at the end of the day, going like, how am I better today than I was yesterday? And that can cover many things, from your personal health to your relationship health, all those different aspects that Sal was talking about. And I think if you have that attitude where you're truly growth minded and wanting to better yourself every single day, I think that really embodies a lot of the message that we put out.
It doesn't have to be much either.
That's right.
It's literally compare yourself to yourself yesterday and just become a small percentage, a percent of a percent better today. And believe me, that turns into massive changes down the road. If you take two parallel lines and you separate them by 1 degree and you move forward 10 feet, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. But you follow those two lines out for 20, 30, 40 miles, and you'll see that they're in completely different directions. So just aim to get a little tiny bit better every single day, and within months to a year to 2 years, you're a new person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I honestly cannot believe the person that I am now compared to when I first started this podcast. And it's just from speaking to guys like you who let me think about things or open my mind to things, or it's like you're saying, challenge your beliefs and allow you to leave the ego at the door and actually learn. So I've got two final questions. So who's your dream guest for each of you?
Oh, shit.
J.J. Abrams.
Is that yours?
Yeah. I would love to pick his brain for a while, and it's not just
so quick on that one, dude.
I've just been
masturbating to that.
I've been thinking about it actually, because this is a question.
Abrams.
Oh my god! Yeah. No, it's not like that. It's not like that. I have a lot of his posters, but we won't talk about that. Yeah, no, I've been asked this question a couple times on other podcasts, and I keep it keeps changing, and I keep narrowing it down. I think it's just because. I'm a big fan of storytelling, and I just feel like the way that he thinks about it, and the different shows he's been a part of, different movies he's been a part of, and just like the way that he can understand what's trying to be conveyed is like super fascinating, interesting to me. And he's just he's doing humongous things. So that would be my ultimate guest, is just to have a conversation with him and pick his brain and see what motivates and drives him to be as successful as
we already know where Sal's gonna go.
Yeah, take a guess.
Go ahead, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on getting Jordan Peterson on, but I would love to interview Jordan Peterson. I think he represents a very interesting movement in the culture at the moment, and I think it's quite fascinating. I think he articulates himself well. Quite controversial. I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but I think he'd be a fantastic conversation. And then the other person is a little more obscure. Most of your listeners might not know who this person is, but Thomas Sowell, who's one of my favorite economists. He's my favorite economist that's alive today. He was a student of Milton Friedman. Would love to get him on the show to talk about everything from race to racism, economics, sexism. Doesn't shy away from the controversial topics.
Now, I want to point out that we were all naming these guests, but something that I think we can all agree on, too, is that I don't think anybody really fantasizes about having a specific guest, because I think we're always surprised.
Yeah.
I think every time I get excited about a guest that I think is going to be amazing, I'm let down by their personality or who they are off the mics. And then the times where I'm not really excited about somebody, where we almost don't show up to an interview or something, and then I meet them and I'm blown away, like what an amazing human they are. So I'm definitely not somebody who, it gets starstruck or like, oh my God, I want to meet so and so. They'd be so great and awesome, because you never fucking know until you get in a room like the one we're in right now to talk to somebody one-on-one and off the radio to really learn their personality. But that being said, I think a really fun interview and a person that I would love to pick their brain, not just because I think it would be entertaining, but also because I think they have a brilliant business mind that a lot of people don't dig into. And that would be Kevin Hart. I think Kevin Hart is what he's doing in media and for a personal brand, and the guy's fucking funny as fuck. So I think it would be hilarious.
That'd be a good one.
I think it'd be hilarious to do something with him, and then I would take him places different than I think an average person that would interview him, because I see what he's done as far as building a personal brand in today's media, and I think he's done an incredible job and built himself a little empire. And I think it'd be a fun person to kind of pluck his brain.
Oh no, it'd be an epic show. It's somebody I'd love to do. For instance, have you heard of the Raging Panda, Nick? He's a guy who lost 2 legs in an accident when he was a soldier.
No.
And he does like obstacle courses carrying a stone, with no legs.
I've seen clips of him actually.
And it was the show that basically blew me away, and it made me look at life completely different. And it's the ones that you think, well, I wonder how this is going to go. Because he's maybe not as big known as everybody else, and you go, holy hell, that was amazing. And he's just an amazing guy, and I think I was just so proud of myself that I had actually really gone into that and and be open and vulnerable with him, because he's such a great guy. And everybody, like I've interviewed Mark Bell, I thought he was a great guy. Sanjeev Prasad, great guy. Tom Bilyeu, Gary Vaynerchuk. There's some amazing people, but it's always the wee ones that blow you away.
Oh, totally. I think in our experience, it's rare that we meet somebody who we think is just going to be so amazing, and then they exceed those expectations or even live up to it. But there's been many times where, I remember too, we get so busy around here. Sometimes we have a guest that's coming in and we fucking, oh my God, we haven't even had a chance to remember who's coming in today. And they're like, oh yeah, it's so-and-so. Like, oh, he does this or he does that. Like, oh, okay, I know what we're going to talk about. And we're not even that excited. And they get in and we're like, holy shit, like this is going to be someone. We've actually created some really great relationships with like the Max Lugaviers and the Jason Phillips,
Joe DeCina,
Joe DeCina, and like these guys that I didn't really pay attention to at all before, but I knew they would be good to be on the podcast. And then we meet them, and they're just good fucking people and the type of people that I want to associate with. And so I'm always surprised by that. So I'm more surprised when we meet somebody who's super famous, like the names that we all named, and then they're fucking really down to earth, because a lot of times these guys and girls come in with these canned type of interviews, and they don't get as deep and personal. I love these people that are a little bit more open and vulnerable, that we actually really connect with and bond with. So you never know.
And how do you think I'm doing? I know this is my first time with 3 people, and we bounced about a bit, but I mean,
I tell you what, this is before we got on, we rarely ever do Skype interviews, all 3 of us anymore. Like, because one of the things that we decided a while back, it's already
no more menage a trois.
It's already challenging to do Skype interviews because of the little bit of a delay, and then because of the style of how we interview, how we talk over each other, it's really fucking hard. And you did an amazing job today. So
you get a 6.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. No.
I was about to say that highlight.
That's a good score.
He's lying. He's lying to you, Ian. That what you
much
did.
Higher.
Yeah, much higher. I think you crushed it. You probably have opened us up to maybe doing this again, because we've pretty much told everybody else that we wouldn't do a Skype. Yes.
No, I mean, there's so many little things where I'm looking, going, oh, I'd love to ask, Adam about that and Justin about that, and because I can see a lot of Sal in different interviews, and I'm thinking, okay, I'd love to ask him all that, but then I'm thinking I want to get them all together as well, and I want to get Dag involved, and there's so many things to how to look at different angles, and I'd love to have you guys on again. I know I said I'd only take an hour, but
Ian, are you in contact with Brianna right now? Who's booking you? Who booked it? Is it Brianna?
Yeah.
So if you reach out to her, you can.
Yeah, we'll do individual interviews.
Yeah, I think individual is really, now that you got a chance to all of us get together and talk and kind of know where everybody goes. Like, I think there's a lot of value in each one. Sal's a little boring and stuff like that, but I mean, for sure, I think you'll still enjoy interviewing each of us individually.
Yeah. No, that'd be great. And then I'd love to have you guys on again. I just wanted to showcase Mind Pump, because I think it really is one of the best things I've seen lately. So for guys listening, where do they go? How do they find out more about you guys? How can they learn from you, follow you, see latest projects, and buy the maps programs, which look amazing?
You can find Sal at Pornhub at Rear Ends. What was it again?
Yeah. .com.
Adam's at logjamming.com.
No. The podcast is Mind Pump. You can find it on any platform. So iTunes, Spotify, Podcast Republic. We're on all of them. The YouTube channel is Mind Pump TV. Different information, but it's also a lot of fitness and health and wellness stuff and some fun stuff. Our website is mindpumpmedia.com. That's where we have all of our programs. We also have a lot of free guides. We've come up with about 12 free, and they're actually quite useful. Lots of good information. And we did this because we wanted to give free things to our audience.
Great place for somebody who's just tuning into us and not sure what kind of information we provide. Because
it's just a bunch of guides, like how to build your chest, how to build your legs, how to flatten your stomach, like a lot of different guides.
Guide, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's mindpumpfree.com. And then you can find us all on Instagram. Just put the word Mind Pump and then put our name. So it's Mind Pump Sal, Mind Pump Adam, Mind Pump Justin, and you'll find our individual pages.
Perfect. Well, the floor is now open to you. If there's anything you'd like to mention, anything coming up, anything that you want to promote, here's your chance.
You know what? I think that I would encourage people. The one thing that Sal didn't say that we have too is we have a free app that you can download, Mind Pump Media. So it's absolutely free, and all it really is it's a search tool. So if you are just finding the podcast and you have specific topics that are related to health and fitness, we've probably covered it. If you put it up in the search toolbox or whatever you call, it'll find all the episodes where we've talked about that topic. And we typically, instead of promoting something or trying selling something, we highly encourage people to take advantage of all the free content that we provide first, and then eventually that you can look into some of our programs. But we're big on that first before trying to market or sell or push in anybody direction.
20% of every sale that we make goes to our fund to try to pay for Adam's sex reassignment surgery. So just keep that in mind. Help us out with that. Yeah,
we're halfway there.
Yeah.
Top or bottom half.
Yeah. I'm starting with the
good
top
old
half.
one ball Adam.
Yeah.
Wait.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I cannot thank you guys enough. It's just, I knew this is the way it was going to go, so I just thought, well, I'll get you all on individually, and I'll get you all back again. But, this is the kind of ones that I enjoy the most. It's getting to know other guys and that didn't come out well.
Yeah.
But, just learning more about life and seeing where you guys do it, because, it's great to speak to other podcasters, people who are learning, evolving, and I cannot say anything but wish you guys the absolute best for the future. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Ian.
Thanks for having us on, man.
Make sure you stay in touch, and then reach out to Brianna. We'll definitely do some more with you, man.
That's it for another week. Thanks for listening. Absorb it, practice it, use it. Until next time, keep trying to hit that next level in your life.